Hello. It is a pleasure for me to be in this intervention that I have been invited to by this program. I consider that it is doing very important work in disseminating all these experiences of people who have had the privilege. For me, it's a privilege to have this experience where we have been able to confirm that there are two planes: the human plane, that which we are all familiar with, and a transcendent or spiritual plane where we transition to another realm. I used to live in Canary Islands and work there because I am from Vigo. I'm Galician. But while working in Las Palmas of Gran Canaria, I suffered from a serious infection in my throat that it didn't do anything to treat. Eventually, I had to go to the emergency room where they decided to give me an injection to stop the disease process. However, during the injection, a blood vessel was hit and blood started gushing out. Gradually, I realized that I was losing my life and sinking into darkness, and that it ended there. But surprisingly, I didn't feel scared. I said, well, if that's the end of the story, I'm going to see if there is anything else, or I'm going to stay here in this darkness. There is nothing else, I said. I know that the brain can keep functioning for a few seconds or even a few minutes is still working and still maintain consciousness. Of course, if I am frightened, I might create a sense of terror and my own hell. On the other hand, if I remain calm, I will be able to experience everything that comes into my sight. And when I was immersed in this reflection, I felt as if all of a sudden now it opened up to the ground and I started moving forward through a tunnel at a tremendous speed. To give you an idea, it felt like around 300 kilometers per hour, similar to a car's speed. As I experienced this sensation of speed, I noticed a point of light at the tunnel's end. I rapidly approached it at a speed towards that light until, in a moment, I shot out of the tunnel and found myself immersed in that light. I felt as though I merged with the light, as if I had fallen into a luminous zone, and into which I formed part of that luminous zone. And that experience was astonishing because I started to feel an overwhelming sense of joy, happiness, and well-being. And I felt an intense feeling of happiness. And at that moment I thought, if I really am dead and I'm out of the body, my body has to be somewhere, and it was, when I thought about that, when it became apparent that I was being resuscitated and trying to return to life in the intensive care unit. From that point on, I realized that the body that I now value so much and that we protect so much, because at that moment I saw it as a case, as something inanimate entity, lacking identity. Because the real identity, I seemed to exist in another energy body. That energy body, I felt it in my consciousness and my total lucidity, and with a clarity of thought, surpassing my usual state in the physical body. And was only already seeing that I relished the sensation of merging with the light and navigating through this new space, and that's when I had a connection with a being of light. I saw it, larger than me, and it was a wonderful experience. This being appeared to be much more evolved than us, like an older brother, and I felt embraced and comforted by its presence. I felt a brightness and an experience tremendously enriching, and that was made me feel broader and more significant. I also sensed a great deal of confidence emanating from this being, how important it is to, when we are here, have positive and enriching experiences, making the life as enriching as possible. When we are alive, both for ourselves and others, so that the passage through here is constructive and positive, and then I embraced him and merged into him. And that feeling of clarity and light expanded my consciousness, and I felt more intelligent. I distinctly remember asking questions to which he would respond. These questions revolved around the purpose of life and why we encounter so many difficult experiences which at times seemed insurmountable. In short, he conveyed that suffering is more instructive than happiness, and there are experiences that the only way to learn from them and to enrich ourselves is by facing difficulties and obstacles. Embracing these challenges and being able to overcome them left a profound imprint on us, preventing the repetition of past mistakes. He emphasized that life is about striving to learn, connecting with the positive dimension within us and in the universe, and continuing to grow and expand our consciousness through experiences. As our consciousness expands, we transition to higher dimensions, gradually progressing in this process as time unfolds in this and other dimensions, as it is measured in this and other dimensions, that we would move into dimensions where we would arrive at dimensions where we would be in the same elevated state as he was, and from there, we would continue ascending until we reached a moment of merging with the universal intelligence and cosmic consciousness. At that point, we would become one with that superior dimension where the supreme intelligence would be the concept we have, if we want to refer to it as God or the supreme intelligence, is that which has created life and organizes everything within the entire universe and cosmos. It envelops us across different scales of dimensions, constituting a comprehensive process of life with the purpose of surpassing challenges and reaching our maximum potential. And that this is the process of life, and that in that whole process we are developing intelligence, consciousness, positivity, and the ability to enrich our lives and the lives of others around us. All of us are interconnected parts of the universe. Although we possess unique personalities and nuances, we contribute to the entire universal experience. We are all part of a universal being, part of an intelligence that envelops us all. And that was the message in summary of what I got from being with this being of light. I felt like I was melting with him. I began to have a series of sensations as if I was watching the film of my life from childhood up until the age I was at that momento. Everything was happening at an intense speed, but at the same time with a lot of lucidity, as if it was like superimposed images, where I saw all the positive things that were there, and negative things I had done and the things I hadn't done then. That entire experience was very enriching, and I was looking at it and I was seeing it. As I was reflecting on my life, I came to understand that the purpose of my journey was to act positively and seek enriching experiences. Trying to make experiences, enriching experiences, and when I was already in that sense of perception and clarity by merging with that being that gave me love and that welcomed me, then I was noticing as if my intelligence seemed to expand and I could even formulate questions I couldn't have found answers to before. However, in that moment, I found the answers, and they were clarifying to me the reality that this experience clarified to me the reality of another dimension, a space of light, where I was heading. Well, then I began to move to see that there was no obstacles, that there were no walls, that there were no to prevent me from going wherever I wanted to go in that moment. I found myself enjoying the wonders of this wonderful plane. And when I was enjoying that wonderful plane, and I was the best part of the experience, was when they managed to revive me, and I regained consciousness in my body. It happened very quickly, almost immediately. As I became aware of my body again, I noticed that I was back in a denser and somewhat grayer space, and all that vibration and that happiness and that feeling of joy like I've never had in my life, so it was fading or diminishing quite a bit. I landed back in my body and surrounded by doctors and people who were very happy they could resuscitate me. However, what they didn't know was how much I wished to stay in that wonderful space. I felt a strong desire to continue I was going through, the extraordinary experience rather than being revived. I missed that experience. I would have liked to continue enjoying it for a lot longer, but it lasted exactly as long as it needed to, providing me with enough enrichment and a series of experiences that have continued to enrich me even after returning. As a result of that moment, I became aware that we are eternal beings. We are in a transition, undergoing an experience that is very valid and very enriching, and sometimes it can be very painful as life takes us through complicated moments. This realization has helped me become a much more conscious person, acting more positively than I did before, and valuing things more transcendentally. I now understand that this life is an enriching journey that I continue to embrace, trying to approach it with a positive mindset for myself and those around me. It brings me happiness to know that I have passed through here leaving behind a life and a positive, enriching work I strive to enjoy, learning and hope to make use of all these experiences to help others, enriching their lives as well. I want my experience to be of value to others, and I have no doubt that each one of you will go through similar experiences sooner or later. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you, sharing my experience.